We are live. Welcome. This is another test.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, David Icke is with us. Tomorrow night, Caroline Corey. She's going to be here to talk about her new documentary. And then Thursday night, it is the return of Laura Eisenhower. Let's get right back to the conversation with David Icke. And David, here is one of the things that I'm completely perplexed about. And that is the media fueling a divide and conquer situation where we have all of the population fighting amongst themselves on all kinds of different issues that are, it's the 2 + 2 = 5 situation that is created in the media. And this dissension that is now global. This isn't a localized thing. It's not a Europe thing or United States thing. It's absolutely every country on this planet. And the divide and conquer thing is in play where the world used to, as at least the way I was raised, enjoy different opinions and different people being different and different backgrounds and religion and politics and jobs and career. Everybody is different. And now being different is wrong. And it's a very interesting time that we find ourselves in where it used to be a different thing. Why create this argumentative, flaming situation on a global scale?
I could talk for hours and hours about this, but if there's a few and you want to control the vast many, you have to divide and rule the many. You have to play the many off against each other. And so we've got identity politics, for instance, which is just dividing people into smaller and smaller and smaller self-identities. And with each one, you have the potential to play it off against other smaller and smaller self-identities. And this whole woke mentality is actually the creation of the cult of the 1%. And I seen when Trump was, and when he won the election, that Trump has been brought in to be a figure specifically. If you look at the communistic playbook, and the techniques that are used, one of their methods is to personalize and focus hatred and antagonism upon a single person. One of these technique manuals says in Transforming a Society into Marxism, don't target faceless corporations and faceless bureaucrats. Focus on one individual if you can, and focus everything on them. So you've had Trump that came to power telling an unheard section of American society that's been marginalized for a very long time. He told them what they wanted to hear. He hasn't come through with it, of course. He's never planned that he would come through with it, but he told them what they wanted to hear. And they became one section of American society, which then the woke mentality was played off against. And so you have this verging on civil war, if not beyond civil war, going on now in America. And if people look back to 2016 and what I said about the Trump phenomenon, it was that they want a civil war in America. They want to completely divide America. And Trump's been a symbol for doing that. So you've got these two sides of America to play off against each other. And if you look at the woke mentality, which is absolutely the creation of the 1%, this is why people like George Soros and these major corporations fund it to phenomenal amounts. They own it. It's behind political correctness. And political correctness is quite simple. It's manipulating the target population to silence itself. So what's happened is that the sheep have dispensed with the sheepdog. The sheep now keep each other in line. No need for a sheepdog, and no need even for a shepherd, because the population wants to silence each other, or certainly the so-called woke mentality does. And so you've got the population working to achieve what the cult wants for the entire population. And if you look at this mentality, you find the same mentality is about political correctness. The same mentality is pushing this to an extreme extent, the transgender agenda. The same mentality is demanding that people wear masks. It is targeting anyone who is in any way pointing out there's a conspiracy to enslave humanity. All these different elements, all of which are 1% agendas, are being pushed by this woke mentality, which is not woke at all. It's fast asleep. And what you have been looking at, and I feel sorry for the wokers, particularly the young mentality, is because they have been subjected to mind and perceptual manipulation on a scale that almost no other generation has. I would say no one of the generations because of the technological aspects of it now. So they've been turned into warriors for the very elite that the woke mentality claims to be challenging. And in 1985, there was a KGB defector, I tell this story in the answer, called Yuri Bezmenov, and he did an interview in America describing the technique of transforming a society from, if you like, democratic to Marxist in like 2 or 3 generations. And what he describes in 1985 is exactly what has happened in America, in Britain, and around the Western world. It's been systematically done, and the woke mentality is the vanguard of it. They are the Twitter stormtroopers of the 1% they claim to oppose.
The other aspect of this, which we are all seeing play out, is that with the rise of this anger that is built in, the alternate view of something, no matter what it is, whether it's your voice, my voice, anybody's voice, is now not acceptable. That's a very strange thing to have happened so quickly. We saw it build up, but over the last couple of months, alternative views on anything is unacceptable. You have to play. You have to play in by the rules inside of the field. You can't step out of bounds, or you're canceled. That's it. You cannot have a free mind anymore. And I never thought I would see this day, David.
Oh, I did, Jimmy. I'm warning about it for 30 years.
You've warned me a lot. I get that, but it happened in 6 months.
Yeah, because that's what the plan was all along, and they've used this fake virus to do it. You cannot divorce or disconnect the censorship of Silicon Valley from the censorship of the woke mentality, which is seeking to impose on everybody. You can't divorce that from Twitter storms whenever anyone says anything that is different from the norm, because it's all being orchestrated by the same cult network to the same end. If you want a completely subjugated global population that believes only what you tell them to believe, then all other possibilities and views and opinions have to be deleted to reach that point. And that's exactly what is happening in all these ways. And so you look at the old left, the old traditional left, which I grew up in. It's the world I grew up in on a council estate in Leicester. They would oppose deletions of freedom of speech. They would oppose mega corporations and multi-billionaires imposing their will on the population. You saw and can still see pictures of the mass demonstrations from people like Berkeley, of students demanding freedom of speech during the Vietnam era.
Right.
But now there's been this total inversion and transformation of the student population. Certainly the vocal dominate the microphones aspect of it, whereby they are now opposing everything students once stood for and the left once stood for. The left has been hijacked by woke. And it's a multiple attack on human freedom from all angles, but to the same end. And when you have young people in bed with mega corporations and billionaires like Soros and goodness knows how many others, and the billionaires of Silicon Valley, while they claim to be involved in social justice, well, you know that there's a very strange process of thought connection going on in their minds. And this is where the transformation has come from. This is why you have this now massive connection between the mega corporations and mega billionaires and the so-called woke left, progressive left, anything but progressive, I would say. Once upon a time, it was about social justice. That's what the left was about primarily. And so that put them on the other side from multi-billionaires and transnational corporations, which were destroying social justice. And then the focus of the left moved from social justice, whatever it may claim, to identity politics. And it was all about identity. And so billionaires and corporations were not the focus anymore because it wasn't about social justice. They just parrot that. And as long as the billionaires and corporations speak the language of woke and identity politics and fund woke organizations and activists to advance the agenda of identity politics, well, they're the good guys now. So as long as they're doing that, they're one of us. So billionaires and corporations are one of us with the woke left, fake left, when they were the enemy of the traditional left. And this is the inversion that's gone on. And it's extraordinary when you think how the so-called radical left has become the voice box and the vehicle for the imposition on global society of billionaires and corporations. But that's how it's come about, and that's why they're in bed together now.
Well, okay, I live in the woke world. I'm in the United States. I'm in Los Angeles. You can imagine what it's like here. But when we speak of woke, is there a woke agenda in Russia, China, India, Central and South America? How does that come into play? And is there a woke thing going on in the United Kingdom?
All big time in the United Kingdom and Western countries. But, it's like designer control and it's designer manipulation. So you use, from the cult's point of view, you use the methods necessary to bring about your intended goal on the basis of the societies that you are dealing with. So, for instance, in China, you just got a fascistic communistic government that says this is how it is, and it happens.
Right.
You don't need a woke movement in China because you already have the control that you want the woke movement to help you impose. What you have to do in the West is subjugate and transform Western society from a place of free opinion and free flow of information into China. And so you've created this woke mentality, which is supported by the media, which is owned by the same cult that created the woke mentality. And you transform human society that way in the West. The point being, and it's a point that the KGB defector Yuri Bezmenov made very clearly, and history confirms it over and over again, is that once your vehicle for imposing tyranny has helped you achieve its goal, you then turn on it. This is why, in the Russian Revolution, lots of people that were involved in that Russian Revolution initially, some of them believing it was genuinely about social justice, it never was, were then targeted in the next phase of the, quote, revolution, and they were treated in exactly the same way that they were treating others at stage one. And this is why revolutions always consume their children. It's because the children are just vehicles for the inner core to achieve its ends. And once that end has been achieved, then they target the people that help them get there without them realizing that they were helping them get there. So the point is very validly made. Where are the woke protests in China? Well, basically, there aren't any because they've achieved their goal of top-down tyranny. They don't need it.
Right.
And once the woke mentality has brought the West, and it's happening so fast, into this state of top-down dictatorship tyranny, then that tyranny will turn on the woke